The third and final race of the weekend for the BRDC British Formula 3 Championship is about to get underway. The cars are out onto their green flag lap then, ahead of what should be another 20 minutes of fantastic action. Races 1 and 2 this weekend have been nothing short of sensational, really, and the reversed grid race earlier on was a proper reversed grid thriller. The grid this time around is based upon the second fastest time, from qualifying yesterday, which sees Ayrton Simmons and Ulysse de Pauw on the front row together, and Neil Verhagen and Lucas Pettersson sharing the second row of the grid. Row number 3 then for Calum Frederick and Hampus Eriksson. Calum Frederick trying to bounce back from a victory yesterday, but a non-finish in this morning's reversed grid encounter. Manuel Maldonado is 7th on the grid. Clement Novalak is 8th for Carlin Motorsport, and then rounding out the top 10 are Jonathan Hoggard and Kian Jewish. Jonathan Hoggard 2nd in the championship, but lost a few points to Clement Novalak in the previous race. Nico Varone was our reversed grid winner from the race 2 earlier on, with Saskia Charmincol alongside him on row number 6. Row 7 then for Andreas Essner and Benjamin Pedersen. Row 7 will see Josh Mason and Nazim Asman, and then right at the back of the grid will be Pavan Ravichanka and Chris Wright. So that is how your grid lines up then for 9 laps or 20 minutes of BRDC British Formula 3 Championship racing. The championship coming into the weekend was being led by Clement Novalak, and as I said, he's taken a few more points out of Hoggard after finishing behind him, ironically, in the previous race. But because of the quirk whereby you get bonus points for every overtake that you complete on the track, he was actually able to score a few more points than Hoggard, despite finishing a couple of places behind him. However, Novalak was given a post-race half-second penalty that essentially dropped him back behind Ulysse de Pauw, who he overtook at the chicane at the bus stop, but did so by taking an unfair advantage by cutting the corner. So he lost a couple of points for that as a result, but still maintains a fairly healthy championship lead of over 20 points. So for Hoggard, he has to try and beat him, really, because we're now getting down to the business end of the season. They're running out of races now, rather, and so they need to try and, or Hoggard at least needs to try and take as many points out of Novalak as he possibly can. Cars at the back of the grid then include Pavan Ravichanka, there, the green and blue machine. Pavan finished 4th in the reverse grid race. That was another good effort from him in race 2. He's had a few of those this year. Race 2, as I said, was won by Nico Varone in his 2nd ever meeting of BRDC British Formula 3, and he took the race victory. Josh Mason came home 2nd, and Neil Verhagen came 3rd in that race, having started it. Neil Verhagen down the grid. Anyway, I can tell you that much. Neil Verhagen started, he started on pole position, but dropped down the order actually then by the end. The only driver with new tyres, by the way, is local man Ulysse de Pauw. He is the only Belgian on the grid, and he lines up in the 55 car on the outside of row number 1, with Ayrton Simmons alongside him on the pole position. The lights go out, away they go. Good start made by Simmons. De Pauw immediately moves over to the inside line to try and defend from the cars behind, with Neil Verhagen going to the outside. There is cement dust down after the GT race earlier on, and they go either side of it, or try to, through La Source corner. A couple of them go really, really wide through the first corner. Yellow flags are out, though. Does that mean that someone's spun in the middle of all of that? I think they're all still there, but there's been a bit of a shuffle of the order possibly in the midfield. No doubt about it, though. It's Simmons that leads the way. It's de Pauw in 2nd. 3rd place is Verhagen. Side by side for 4th place, and that was Calum Frederick diving across the road there and running straight onto the runoff area as they head now down the straight. Side by side for 2nd position there. Verhagen was attacking de Pauw, and I think should be able to slipstream his way straight through onto the braking zone now at Les Combes. And yes, he's gone through the 26 car into 2nd position. Then Neil Verhagen, the American driver, gets himself ahead of Ulysse de Pauw. And then behind is anyone's guess for 4th place. They're almost 3 abreast as they come through, and right around the outside. Who was that gaining ground then in one of the Carlin cars? Lucas Pettersson was no 17. Clement Novalak from 8th on the grid. Clement Novalak is into 4th place already. And what's happened to Calum Frederick? Because Frederick appears to have, he's there right at the back of the grid now, appears to be Calum Frederick. So it's been a real day to forget. He was nerfed off the road at the exit of Les Combes on lap 1 of race 1. And now in race 2, I think he's possibly lost his front wing, has he? The blue and yellow car at the back of the group. Let's see if we can get a closer look at it. Has he lost his front wing? I think he might have done. So, unfortunately, the Carlin machine in strife once again here on the opening lap. And yes, it definitely has lost its front wing. So, Calum Frederick, having started 5th, this was a good opportunity for him to get another good result, but it has all come to naught. So, out of pit path, down towards the Stavelot section, and there is Kian Jewis, the green and white car, just ahead of number 3, Jonathan Hoggard. So Hoggard then, compared with Novalak, he started 1 place behind Novalak, but Novalak has gained an awful lot more ground than he has, and it's worth sometimes taking those risks in the early stages, because you can sometimes manage to make the places safely. It's when you take the risks and it all goes wrong that you feel a bit silly, but on that occasion, a risk well worth taking for Novalak, because he's into 4th position, whilst Hoggard is all the way down in about 9th. So I don't think Hoggard's actually gained a single position on the opening lap. Pavan Ravichanka has, though. Look, he's the blue and green car. He's overtaken about 5 cars already, having started off the back row of the grid. The race leaders come across the start-finish line with Ayrton Simmons leading the way. Ayrton Simmons looking for his 2nd victory of the year. He won at Silverstone in this equivalent race a couple of months ago. There's Hoggard number 3, and right behind him is Nico Verone, who we know is quick and is not afraid to get stuck in amongst some of the championship regulars, and he was looking to get alongside Hoggard then as they dragged down the hill past the old pit lane into Eau Rouge. Through the left, the right, back through the left at Radion, back over the hill again as so you must feel like you're taking off through that part of the track, and they're weaving around to try and break the slipstream. This is the sort of action we saw in the previous race, although on this occasion Simmons is at the moment starting to pull away slightly. 3 abreast almost here, as it looks like Kian Jewis was losing out there, possibly. Number 22 car that he's battling with is Lucas Pettersson, who now in fact was in front of Jewis anyway, so Jewis was trying to gain ground but hadn't been able to do it. So the big winners then, 4 places gained for Novalak, 5 for Ravichanka from the back of the grid. Oh, someone was on the grass then in the background coming down the hill. That all looked rather tasty. Do they all arrive on the scene together? Yeah, Pavan Ravichanka was involved in that squeeze and ended up getting eased out wide, I think, going through the right-hand hairpin at Brussels. So things now starting to calm down ever so slightly. Most of these cars, though, are on tyres that have done at least 1 race run and possibly a bit of practice scrubbing as well. As I said, the only driver who had 2 fresh tyres is Ulysse de Pauw. Ulysse de Pauw with 2 fresh left-hand tyres has been able to trying to use that from the front row to challenge for the race lead. As it happens, he's dropped behind Neil Verhagen into 3rd position, but you can see the drivers noticeably don't seem to have the sort of grip that they had in the previous race. That car certainly won't have the grip. That's Benjamin Pedersen with a broken or a loose front wing, the orange number 20 car. That will be really causing them to plan. There's actually damage on the front of de Pauw's car, is there not, in 3rd position? I think that front wing looked a bit askew as well. Yes, it is. Look, it's dragging on the ground, the left-hand side, and that's why he's dropping into the clutches now of Clement Novalak, who goes around the outside. The championship leader makes it stick. Lovely move that from Clement Novalak, who is not afraid to get stuck in here, despite the fact that he, in theory, has this championship advantage to protect. But really good driving this from Clement, and he's now into 3rd place, ahead of Ulysse de Pauw, and also now ahead of Hoggard. There is that damage on the front wing. Good shot there from the camera at La Source, and it's even at the low speed corners hurting him. He's drifting out wide of the apexes. He's scrubbing off speed on the exit of the corner as a result. And now Manuel Maldonado moves in to challenge. Maldonado has had 4 podium finishes this year, but he's not won a race. That doesn't look particularly likely in this one either, but he is at least having a pretty solid weekend, Maldonado. 3rd in race 1 of the weekend. He was then 11th in race 2 from the reversed grid, having started down in 16th, of course. But he makes that look easy, actually. Drives straight around Pauw, and that wing has now come loose completely. The end plate has, at least. So it wasn't actually the wing structure itself that was loose, it was just the front left end plate that's come loose and flapped up now as he hit the top speed down the Kemmel Straight. It's shouldn't be an issue if it stays there. If anything, it might actually create a bit more downforce. Through La Source he went, and then there was a car that went wide somewhere, I think, in this group as well, possibly on that cement dust. Oh, yeah, there we go. And bounces back onto the track. Couldn't quite see who that was. It might have been Chris Wright, I think, from the back of the fields. No, he's a bit further up the order than that. Maybe Josh Mason. It was one of the Lannon cars, I think, but ran wide, either Lannon or Fortec, white and red. Oh, de Pauw's off the road completely now, as that front wing means he's got virtually no grip through the high-speed corners, and he's dropped now down behind Jonathan Hoggard, even. So that's a place gain for Hoggard, at least. There you can see the number 3 car, 2nd in the championship. Ayrton Simmons, though, is 3rd in the championship, and Simmons beat him in the first race, but didn't manage to beat him in the second, so it's sort of on as even between the two of them. There were about 40-odd points between them going into this weekend. Least Pow now coming under pressure from, is that Verone? No, it's 79, that is. That's Spa Francorchamps, who goes through. The next car behind will be Nico Verone, who is making decent progress in this race. Then we'll start at 11th, he's running 11th now, but certainly not losing too much ground. Hoggard goes around the outside here. This is a brave move, gets the inside for the second part of the bus stop and gets past Lucas Pettersson, who started this race 4th position. So Lucas struggling for whatever reason in this race, but Hoggard is through, and that puts him now into 7th position, with Ulista Pau trying to join in the fun as well. So Pettersson down a spot, and now in fact under pressure from Chimancol, who seems to have found an extra gear all of a sudden. Did he make that stick? Yes, he did. Sassakorn goes ahead. De Pau, by the way, is in the pit lane to get that front wing looked at and possibly replaced, but that will lose him a lot of time. That's exactly what happened to Neil Verhagen in race 1 yesterday. Had some contact and damaged the front wing and had to pit, and it meant that he finished 18th and was never able to catch anybody really. Fastest lap, by the way, belongs to Kieran Jewis, the green car there, just ducking out of line. And he's attacking, is he now? Hampus Eriksson. He goes through on the inside of Hampus Eriksson, so Kieran Jewis sets the fastest lap and then immediately moves through into 5th position. So Kieran in the number 87 car, having a pretty good day so far. Race at least, and Kieran Jewis then the 16-year-old, fresh out of British Formula 4 last year. He was the champion, indeed, in British F4 in 2018 with 6 race victories and was 4th in the Ginetta Junior Championship before that, but that was his first season of car racing in 2017. And now already racing in Britain's premier single-seater category. And now moving into the top 5 of this race here at Spa. Hoggard is 7th, as we said. So Hoggard 7th, Novalak 3rd. Obviously, doesn't take a great mathematician to figure out that that's certainly working in the favour of Clement Novalak, the British-based Swiss driver, if memory serves. Clement then at wheel of that number 17 car, run out of the Carlin squad. Again, in only his 2nd season of racing, raced in the Toyota Racing Series New Zealand last year, where he finished 5th in the championship. He did compete in a half season last year, actually, in British F3, so he's back again now for more. And there is Clement Novalak, 3rd position, 0.7 seconds then back from Neil Verhagen on the previous lap, was about 4/10ths quicker. On this occasion, he sets the fastest lap, does Novalak, so he's definitely quicker, but then Kieran Jewis beats him to it. So Jewis in the green car, number 87, then nicks the fastest lap back. And they're trading lap times here. It was a 2:19.4 for Jewis and a 2:20.1 for Novalak, but Novalak was still 6/10ths quicker than Verhagen in front of him. So Neil Verhagen could get caught here possibly by Novalak behind. And Novalak was actually a couple of tenths quicker than Ayrton Simmons, but I don't think there's much catching Simmons here. He's 3 seconds clear at the front of the field. There you can see the advantage for the red and yellow car. Car number 12, Ayrton Simmons, leading them over the hill towards Les Combes, but the gap between 2nd and 3rd coming down very, very rapidly indeed. And then this is all getting rather entertaining as well. That's Spa Francorchamps, the 79 car, 22 is Pettersson, and 25 is, 3 is Hoggard, excuse me. So Hoggard has lost ground there because they've both gone back past him. So Jonathan Hoggard was ahead of these two at the start of the lap, and he's now back down into 9th place. This is a disaster here for Jonathan, who just has not had the speed all weekend long. In race number 1, qualifying for race number 1, qualifying took place yesterday morning. He was a little off the pace and certainly didn't finish as high up the order as you might have expected. And then in race 1 itself, he could only manage 8th. Race 2, he could only manage 7th. Despite it being a reversed grid race, he only gained a couple of spots from his starting position. Now here he is down into 9th position in this one to complete a hat-trick of really pretty disappointing results when you consider that Hoggard won 2 of the 3 races at Donington last time, but unfortunately he had an on-finish in the middle race. Hoggard, with 4 wins going into this weekend, was the winningest driver in the championship. Caleb Frederick now has 3 victories to his credit though, so he's closing in. Carlin most definitely with more wins than any other team. They've won 6 now of the races that we've had so far. Fortec, their nearest rivals, on 4. That's that iconic single-seater racing rivalry between Carlin and Fortec continuing to rage now. So Verhagen and Novalak are now together. The double R racing car of Verhagen, the Carlin machine of Novalak. And across the line they go then towards La Source, and it looks as though maybe Novalak might be close enough here, maybe not into the first corner, although he thinks about it because Verhagen takes that wide line to avoid the cement dust. That leaves the door open, but Verhagen should get better exit from the corner. No, I think that Novalak is alongside, is he? No, not quite. Clement Novalak needs to be careful here. He's on for a good result. He does not need to take too many huge risks here and end up damaging the car or ending up off the road completely. And obviously, second place would go down nicely if he could. It was another personal best lap last time around, and now he's got the slipstream down the Kemmel Straight, or up the Kemmel Straight as the case may be, and he forces Verhagen to defend to the inside. Novalak, of course, goes to the outside. Now, you can go right around the outside here and get the inside line for the left-hander. That's what Novalak's going to try. He doesn't even need the inside of the left-hander. He's gone through before he gets there. And Clement Novalak then, having started this race down in 8th place after a slightly lacklustre qualifying effort, they've clearly found something with that car overnight. And here he is now, carving his way up the order. He did a similar sort of thing yesterday where he started down in about 8th place again and finished 4th. And now, today, going even better than that, he's into 2nd place. Now, can he do anything about Ayrton Simmons? His fastest lap, Clement Novalak, is a 2:20.008, which he just set. Simmons' best lap is a 2:20.3, so in theory, yes, Novalak is the quicker, but the starting point is 3.3 seconds. And we are already on to the 6th lap now of 9, so only 3 laps to go after this one. He would need a second a lap, which I don't think is going to happen. But he is at least getting away now from this 4-car fight that's developing for 2nd place. I suppose the next person to watch is that man there, Kian Jewis, number 87, who has the fastest lap. His previous lap was another good one as well, only a couple of tenths off that fastest lap. He's right on the tail now of Manuel Maldonado and, of course, Neil Verhagen, who, having lost that position, is now starting to look a bit vulnerable here in 3rd position. Manuel Maldonado is right on his gearbox now in the slipstream through Blanchimont, pulls alongside to the outside. Again, you can go around the outside here and then make a bit of a block pass into the left-hander onto the pit straight, but no, Verhagen late enough on the brakes to see that particular challenge off. What about the exit from the left-hander? Well, the 33 car of Maldonado gets a bit sideways. He'll still have a good run into La Source, but Kian Jewis is also there to try and pick up the pieces if this all goes wrong. Into the first corner, and he dives to the inside line, and Kian Jewis goes for it, and that was a really decisive move. That cement dust at turn 1 is actually starting to have a real effect because the drivers are trying to straddle it, go either right or left, and the drivers that go left are leaving the door wide open on the inside, and Maldonado will now lose another place to Hampus Eriksson, who goes through. So Hampus Eriksson, then the Swedish driver for Double R, finds a way past Manuel Maldonado, whom the race has just started to unravel, really. Jewis is now going for 3rd place, though, and he's got it. He's driven straight past Neil Verhagen on the run out of Eau Rouge and Radion. So Neil Verhagen then into, Kian Jewis, you can tell it's been a long day, into 3rd position. Now, can he chase after Verhagen? Again, in theory, he's quicker. His best lap is about 4 or 5 tenths quicker than Novalak, actually. So Novalak there, running wide as well, the 2nd place man over the curbs. So too, though, Neil Verhagen behind and Hampus Eriksson. And they're really dropping Maldonado now as if he's maybe got a problem or just the tyres are crying enough. This wide as well there for Eriksson, I think, going through Pouhon. So yeah, they're all really struggling for grip now. The front of the car isn't gripping through the high-speed corners, and the rear isn't gripping through the low-speed corners. And that's because these tyres now are in their 2nd full race run, essentially. And as you can see, they give them some punishments. Tyres don't tend to like going through too many heat cycles either, really. So the drivers may well be struggling a little bit more in this race than they might have expected. It's very warm out there as well. Track temperature is 37 degrees right now, so that will really be punishing these tyres. And the teams can do a little bit setup-wise to try and manage tyre wear, mainly things like tyre pressures. The lower the tyre pressure is at the start of the race, the longer in theory the tyre should last. But once it's been through one heat cycle, one race run, it doesn't seem to have quite as big an effect. So through we go then. This is the first chance we will get to compare Clement Novalak's lap tyres to Ayrton Simmons. Simmons, the race leader, comes through, does a 2:20.2, which is a personal best. It's a tenth slower than Novalak, who in turn is slower than Jewis. Jewis is still the fastest car on the track right now. a 2:19.936, despite 2 overtakes that he made on that previous lap as well. We're on to the penultimate lap of the race, though. He might get Novalak. I don't think he can do anything about Simmons. I don't think anyone can, but he might just be able to catch Novalak, but he'd have to take a big chunk out of the second place man on this lap in order to get a slipstream onto the final lap. That's got to be the challenge, I think. There they go, though. Jewis, of course, is also going to try and shake off Ayrton Simmons, Neil Verhagen if he can. And behind that is Jonathan Hoggard, maybe about to lose another place here, because fighting back at him now is Lucas Pettersson. 22 car to the outside line there. Hoggard cannot really afford to be giving any more places away. He's into 8th position now. But with Clement Novalak second, all of a sudden Kian Jewis is becoming Jonathan Hoggard's best friend, because if Jewis can catch Novalak, at least it'll take a few points out of him. It's looking increasingly like this is Novalak's championship to lose, really. Came into this meeting off the back of 2 race victories earlier on this year, but Novalak had actually finished 4th place in all 3 races at Donington Park last time out, and then finished 4th again yesterday. And he went one better and finally got onto the podium in race 2 earlier on this morning with a 3rd place finish. Now maybe a 2nd place, but on this lap he is slower than Jewis by 3/10 in the first sector, and the first sector isn't particularly long, and that is the high-speed run really out of La Source through Eau Rouge and up the hill, during which Jewis did not have a slipstream, so that is telling that Jewis is naturally a bit quicker here at this stage than Novalak. Maybe he's looked after the tyres better, but Clement Novalak is being caught now by the 3rd place car, and they're both at the moment lapping quicker than the race leader. The gap is down to about 2.6 seconds now between Simmons and Novalak. Novalak to Jewis down to about 1.5, and in the middle sector actually Novalak is 2/10 quicker than Jewis. So where it really counts through that middle sector, which is over a minute long, it doesn't look as though on this lap at least Jewis has what it takes to close in any further on the 2nd place man. Back across the line they go then. Jewis leaving behind now Neil Verhagen, though, to the tune of 8/10, who has got Hampus Eriksson on his tail. Hampus Eriksson this season has had 2 3rd place finishes as his highlights. This weekend has been a little disappointing. 6th in race 1 for Eriksson, but only 14th in race 2, so he'd like to get himself a top 4 if he can, and it looks like he might be able to, because he's well within slipstreaming range of Verhagen now as they go up onto the Kemmel Straight once again for the final time, in fact. And the fight for 4th place, yes, they're already side by side. Eriksson pulls to his left, our right, tries to go around the outside of Verhagen, and Verhagen, before they're even halfway down the straight, had to duck back in behind, and Eriksson has now gone through. So Hampus Eriksson then into 4th. Don't think he'll be able to do much with Kian Jewis. Braking zone then at Brussels, just over half a lap still to go, but Ayrton Simmons looking good, it would seem, for the race victory, and not his first taste of the championship campaign, but he has only won 1 race so far this year, which was at Silverstone, and there is Ayrton Simmons heading through Pouhon over the curb. A nice, neat and tidy run this, and he's managed the gap really from pole position. Once he saw off the attentions of Verhagen and De Pauw at the start, really, from that point on, the Chris Dittman racing car was not likely to be challenged particularly. And Ayrton Simmons is indeed going to call through the final few corners now. Fairly handy race leader behind him. Jewis again was quicker than Novalak by half a second in the first sector, so the gap's down to just over 1 second. He might just be able to pick up a toe up the hill, but no, in the background he's not close enough, is he? So I think our podium places are pretty much set now, as for the final time through Blanchimont comes Ayrton Simmons, and he heads to the final 2 turns at the bus stop chicane, and prepares to be a race winner for a 2nd time in the 2019 BRDC British Formula 3 Championship, because Ayrton Simmons wins the 3rd and final race here at Spa, and a brilliant drive that was for Simmons, with 2nd place going to Novalak, 3rd place for Jewis, and around in the background, look goes Spa Francorchamps at the final corner. Now what happened there, I wonder? Hopefully we'll pick up a replay if we can. Charman goal though, pointing the wrong way, and he's not stalled the car, I don't think. He's got it far back up, possibly. I think he has now stalled it. If he think he'd kept that hill speed car running for a while, but then as soon as he tried to get going, he stalled it and now rejoins, but he will finish in 13th place. Yes, just ahead of Nazim Asman, who's there in the background. Then Chris Wright, Caleb Frederick was only 16th after his damage and loss of front wing. Similarly, Benjamin Pedersen. Now, what happened as Ayrton Simmons is weaving around to celebrate? Keep an eye in the background, and oh, was that contact with Jonathan Hoggard, I wonder? I don't know. I don't know if we have the other angle of that, but that looked as if maybe Jonathan Hoggard got into the back of him, and around went Sasakor and Chimancol. So Hoggard ends up 7th, but that has to be provisional, I think, until we know what the outcome of any, whether there was any contact there, and if so, whether a penalty will be given. But that was a little unfortunate a way to end the race, really. So it is all over then for the F3 cars, well, almost all of them. Ulysse de Pauw has not yet finished the race, actually. He has had a race to forget, really, after the, as I said, the loss of that front wing earlier on. But Ulysse de Pauw still has to finish the race and is in the process of doing so now. About to head up to the final couple of corners, and then we will be done with Formula 3 racing for the weekend. The championship really starting now to fall into the hands of Clement Novalak. I say fall into the hands, he's earned it well and truly. Got those couple of wins earlier on, but he's been very consistent until Silverstone, basically. So until race 8 of the season, he'd never been out of the top 6, and then he had a 9th place finish at Silverstone, but that remains his worst race of the year. So Clement Novalak really putting together a nice consistent programme this year to lead the championship. It was Ayrton Simmons, though, who led all the way in our final race of the weekend for the BRDC British Formula 3 Championship. Clement Novalak came home in 2nd, Kian Dewis in 3rd, and then 4th place for Hampus Eriksson. Neil Verhagen was in 5th position, and 6th place then for Manuel Maldonado, 7th Jonathan Hoggard, 8th Lucas Pettersson, 9th Nicholas Verone, and 10th for Josh Mason, with Ravishankar, Esner, Chimancol, Asman and Wright rounding out the top 15. And then outside the top 15, Caleb Frederick 16th, Benjamin Pedersen 17th, and Ulysse de Pauw did finish, as we saw, albeit some way down the order, after having to pit for that front nose cone replacement. So the BRDC British F3 Championship has 3 more rounds to go, 3 races apiece at Brands Hatch, back to Silverstone at the Grand Prix circuit, and then Donington Park to round the season off. And will it be Clement Novalak who lifts the title? Well, he certainly went the right way about doing that in this 3rd and final race of the weekend. He carved his way through from 8th on the grid in the early stages, making some brilliant moves around the outside through Les Combes, and before you knew it, he was alongside Ulysse de Pauw for 2nd place and made a lovely move around the outside of the already slightly walking wounded number 55 car. That front wing end plate eventually came loose completely and forced de Pauw into the pit lane. He would finish at the back of the field. Kian Dewis was a star of the show in the middle part of the race, setting the fastest lap of the race and working his way up the order. He eventually caught the battle that was going on just in front of him, which involved Manuel Maldonado, who he dived up the inside of into La Source, and then made fairly short work of Hampus Eriksson as well. Ayrton Simmons, though, took the race victory, his 2nd race victory of the year. Chris Dittman Racing's 2nd race victory of the year as well, with Clement Novalak only 1.8 seconds back at the flag. There was a late spin for Sasakor and Chimancol, who finished in 13th place in the end, but it was an entertaining race once again for the BRDC British Formula 3 Championship. So Ayrton Simmons, the race winner. There is the podium. It's ready and waiting to greet the top 3 drivers from that race. Racing drivers take a frustratingly long time sometimes to get up to the podium, and some much needed bottles of water waiting for them as well behind the podium there, which they will definitely need. As I said, that ambient temperature keeps rising really to about 37 degrees to 22 degrees. Track temperature is 36. Very, very warm out there, but Chris Dittman's squad don't care. They've got the shorts on. They have just won their 2nd race of the year. Not the biggest of operations either, the CDR Racing squad. They run just the 2 cars, the other one being Nazim Asman. They don't have the hordes of data they can fall back on that the likes of a Fortec or a Carlin or even something like a Double R can rely on. Chris Dittman, the man behind the team here this weekend, and there are the trophies waiting for the drivers up on the podium, overlooking the main grandstand here at Spa. Round 15 of the BRDC British Formula 3 Championship then goes to Ayrton Simmons. Now, Simmons, going into that race, was not actually, as I said, he was about 40 points or so behind Jonathan Hoggard. Well, he's just won the race, which obviously has earned him some more championship points, and I wonder, let's see, he will have just scored 35 points, whilst Hoggard was only 7th, and that was a provisional 7th, and that was 15, so he's already taken at least 20 of those points out of him. So Ayrton Simmons for 2nd in the championship might not be a particularly bad shout, with still, as I said, 9 races to go. So it may be that that might work in the favour of Ayrton Simmons as the year goes on. Ayrton Simmons, the 18-year-old, as I said, came from British F4. He was racing with Kieran Dewis in British F4 last year, and in fact finished 2nd in the championship to Ayrton, with 4 wins and 8 podiums. Also did a couple of BRDC British F3 rounds, including here at Spa, with the best race result of 4th position. He did Spa, Donington and Silverstone last year towards the end of the year. He had a couple of other seasons of British F4 actually before that. In fact, started racing in British F4 in 2016, did Ayrton Simmons, but only halfway through the year because he was too young to race in a full season. So Ayrton Simmons, despite his relative lack of years, clearly a talented driver and may yet have a chance at snatching 2nd place in the points away. Well, it's been a brilliant weekend for the BRDC British Formula 3 Championship. Their next rounds will be again on the British GT package on the 3rd and 4th of August at Brands Hatch. Be sure to tune in then to see what happens next in this championship battle.